Yes, welcome. We are visiting the basic structure values of the Constitution of India. The concept of basic structures was enunciated for the first time by Justice H.R. Khanna in Keshwan Nanda Bharti case, where it was settled as that there is a basic structure of the Constitution of India, and this basic structure cannot be amended. Means the interpretation of the amending powers of the Parliament was specified being only up till it does not touch the basic structure of the Constitution of India. Therefore, now let us see that what this basic structure is. Now, in a Rai Sahab, Ram Javaya Kapoor and others versus State of Punjab, it has been laid down that it is not possible to give an exhaustive definition of the executive functions, but it may be implied as that ordinarily the executive power connotes the residue of the government functions that remain after legislative and judicial functions are taken away. Means attempt is being made here to give a complete picture of the functional apparatus of the powers of the government, functions of the government. So, government functions are given a setup as that there will be legislative, there will be judicial functions, and what remains after the legislative and judicial functions that ordinarily may be taken as the executive power. In this background, now let us see what the Supreme Court has laid down as a doctrine of the basic structure. The basic structure doctrine is an Indian judicial principle. See, it is an Indian judicial principle, most notably pronounced by Justice Hansraj Khanna, that the Constitution of India has certain basic features that cannot be altered or destroyed though amendments by the Parliament of India. It is Keshwanand Bharti case. In this background, when the judiciary as judicial functions, the apex court interprets as that there is a basic structure, number one, and that basic structure cannot be amended. Means there is a permanence attached. It is this permanent value of the Constitution of India which is being respected. It is in a way unalterable domain of the values of the Constitution of India. Now we as students of law are appreciating by visiting these basic structures of the Constitution of India as the justice systems are ultimately to have source of powers from this basic structure. The basic structure of the Constitution of India is to lead us to truly truthful justice delivery system. So we as lawyers have to imbibe this feature of the justice delivery system. So the substantive justice is to be of the values which are having their foundation in the basic structures, values of the Constitution of India. Now see what these basic structures values are. The values, basic structure values are being defined. It is from another place here. and it is balance. So these values have been enlisted. We will be coming to it. But before that, let us see that we have been through the preamble. We have been through the fundamental duties. And also there is a chapter of directive principles of state policy. Now, what has been enlisted, consolidated, preserved as the preamble, and what has been enshrined as fundamental duties, and what we today will be visiting, the directive principles of state policies. These are three distinct chapters or distinct codes, but with respect to it, there is no compelling, punitive, or other apparatus for their implementation and ensuring that that does happen. Therefore, when we are visiting the basic structure of the Constitution of India, then we have to keep in mind as to there are certain values as in preamble, as in fundamental duties, and as in the chapter of the directive principles of state policies, with respect to which we don't have machinery, we don't have apparatus, we have punitive, compelling code. So these are vested in the citizens, these are in the state, and these are general overpowering the foundation of the complete text, apparatus, machinery, institutions of the Constitution of India. So it is here where it is left to citizens to follow the fundamental duties, whether or not there shall be some compulsion, whether or not there shall be some apparatus, whether or not there shall be some system, whether or not there shall be some institutional, supervisory apparatus, regulatory apparatus with respect to the duties being followed or not by the citizens, whether or not preamble as such pre-meets the functional apparatus of all four previous back range of the situations. Now, let us first of all be through the basic structure of the Constitution as part 4, the directive principles of state policy. Now, directive principles of state policy are part of the Constitution. It is chapter 4, and section article 36 gives a definition. In this part, unless the context otherwise requires, the state has the same meaning as in part 3. And part 3 is regarding the fundamental rights. So, the fundamental rights of the citizens in respect of the reservoir of state is the same as is in respect of the directive principles. Now see, Article 37 says, application of the principles contained in this part. The provisions contained in this part shall not be enforceable by any court. I am here, we are here, yet this legislative constitutional sanction, the provisions contained in this part shall not be enforceable by any court, but the principles therein laid down are nevertheless fundamental in the governance of the country, and it shall be the duty of the state to apply the principles in making laws. So what this clause exactly implies? has been put to the conscience of the legislature. Legislature may apply those principles. No, but we can't enforce it. So citizens can't go to the court. Courts cannot give any legal sanction in case these are being implemented or not implemented. So there cannot be a judicial direction. There cannot be judicial pronouncement for compulsion for the state to follow these principles. Now it is here where we have again to visit the interpretation of the Constitution of India regarding the division of powers in Rai Bahadur Ramji Kapoor's state of Punjab, where it is said all what residue remains after the judicial functions and after the legislative functions, those are vested in the executive. That means this chapter of directive principles, as it is, be taken that it is for the moral and conscious considerations of the executive. Court has been specifically barred. Court cannot enforce these principles, but these values are there. Therefore, once there is a prohibition upon the court, that means it goes to the domain of the legislature and executive. So we as students of law and we as lawyers, the officers of the court, have to imbibe the implication of directive principle. So while we will be through the different provisions of the Constitution of India, particularly to consider basic structure, then we will be making these three chapters: preamble, fundamental duties, and directive principles as a one class. It is a class where we cannot have the directions from the courts. So we as lawyers, as such, should feel that our limitations for getting judicial judgments will remain only with respect to the other domains, that means the domains other than the preamble, the fundamental duties, and the directive principles. Now let us see what these fundamental structures are, what these basic structures are. These basic structures are being tabulated here. These are being tabulated from A to F from the Keshwanand Bharti case. It is basic structures doctrine, basic structures doctrine, which has been pronounced by Justice H.R. Khanna in that judgment. Now let us be through them. Number one, that the citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. So what is the stress here? That men and women be treated equally. So one principle, basic structure value, being accepted by our constitution as per this interpretation is that men and women are equal. The second basic structure value is that the ownership and control of the material resources of the country are so distributed as best to observe the common good. So the entire resources have been put in one pool, and that is meant for the common good. So the second basic structure value is that the entire resources, word used is material resources. So entire material resources are to be put in one pool meant for common good. The third basic structure value is that the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment. Now see, as second value, the material resources have been put in a common pool. And now here as a third value, it is said the operation of economic system. So material resources and then the operation of the economic system. So it also has been accepted as the basic structure value of the Constitution of India as that the operation of the economic system is to be for the common welfare. Word used are common detriment. It should not be for common detriment. So material resources and the operation of the economic system both are accepted as the basic structure value of our constitution. The fourth is that there is equal pay for equal work for both men and women. Now see, the first value and the fourth value, both are complementary and supplementary, but simultaneously both are independent as well. Let us reread that the citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. That is an opportunity. There is an opportunity which shall be equal. And here is the payments. There should be equal pay for the equal work. So value one is opportunities for men and women shall be equal. And here it is that payment work for the same work shall be equal. So value 1 and value 4 are complementary and supplementary of each other. And value 2 and value 3 as well are complementary and supplementary, as it is here is said, the material resources and operation of the economic system. Therefore, from these four values, what comes to be is that as existence values, the equality is being accepted as foundational value for men and women, and then the resources and operation as economic system as well is being taken for the common good. Now let us see what is the fifth value, that the health and strength of the workers, men and women, and tender age of children are not abused, as that citizens are not forced the economic necessity to enter avocations unsuited to their age or strength. Now see how big range of this value is. That means our state functions, may it be in executive, may it be legislative, may it be in judicial, those have to be put on such a format which has a respect for health and strength and the tender age. That means our entire functional apparatus is to be of such human considerations. And that way, this fifth value becomes the supervisory and overriding value for all the first four values. And the last, the sixth concept is the children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in conditions of freedom and dignity. The childhood and youth are protected against exploitation and against moral and material abandonment. See now, the entire constitutional apparatus is to be made functional so that the present generation, which has been divided into two parts, those who have a power to vote and those who don't have a power to vote. So the persons who have a power to vote means adults, those adults who will be making the state as a functional apparatus shall see that that tender age, non-adult or minor section of the society. So entire emphasis of this value is that the elder generation shall endeavor to see that the younger generation is not having material abandonment, there is no exploitation, and there is a full protection, there is a complete freedom, there is a dignity, and there is a range of opportunities. So see how big is the value of our constitution, which has been recognized and has been accepted as a condition, as a restriction upon the state, as a restriction upon the legislature, as a restriction upon the executive, that in respect of these values, these basic structure values, they have no powers to give amendment, alteration, changes in the constitution. Now, the beautiful aspect is that these values, as these have been scintilled by the judiciary while interpreting the constitution, these values are as such not being mentioned anywhere in any of the clauses, but these are pre-meeting, these are the foundations. This is the values flow through the entire text of our constitution. Therefore, from here, from this basic structures doctrine enunciated and accepted by the Supreme Court, and which is the binding law, which is the binding value, which is the binding governance value, this is scintilled. So while we will be developing the art of interpretation, then we have to learn that the texts written in words are not to be taken simply as per their dictionary meanings. These are to be taken as reservoirs of values. So in legislative enactments, while the golden rule is that give the natural meanings to the words, but the overall transcendental concept of interpretation given by the Supreme Court by scintilling out the basic structure values is that we have to approach these texts as transcendental reservoirs, and we have to see the values running through them. So the values running through the texts are to be given a respect. So the rule of interpretation of the Constitution as per the basic structures doctrine enunciated by the Supreme Court in Keshwananda Bharati case is that no doubt the words used in the text are given to the natural dictionary meanings, but the eye be upon the transcendental value running through this text. So this text is to be taken as a river of the values. There is a flow in the river. River is not a water. River is not what is being within the embankments. River is which is a flow. At each moment, it is changing. At each moment, though there is a change of the water, but it remains river only because there is a flow. It is this flow of the values which is to be appreciated, which is to be imbibed. So from tomorrow, from the next session, we will be taking up the text of the Constitution from the point of view of the different institutionals given life as per the separators. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, when we started this session in the beginning, our basic objective, what we have thought, that we would like to set the system right where it's not being actually implemented, like the powers which police has, which are being misused, and similarly now after going through the foundation of Constitution of India, actually it has become a frustration for me to see what actually is the foundation and what actually is happening.
That means we are having a frustration with respect to ourselves. Why
Yes.
we are not striving for excellence? It is
Yes,
our
so
duty.
this is what should we do now? No, writing a constitution is very easy.
There are two ways.
That one
There
should have this.
There are two
There has to be
ways.
a fundamental right.
One
But
way
where the
is one way is to improve oneself. Second way is we should have a collective wisdom. How to have a collective wisdom is the responsibility of the people of India who have given this Constitution. Constitution is not to be bestowed from above. So
sir, as far as whatever I am supposed to do as a citizen of India, I should become a honest taxpayer. I should abide by law. I should be a lawful person in every aspect.
it is not only lawful but constitutional.
Agreed, sir.
By constitutional means the entire duty, every fundamental duty is to be taken, and one of that is to promote fraternity.
Yeah, sir, and if you remember, I think around 10 years ago we have discussed that we are going to do something about the beggars who are standing on the red light, and where the Constitution says that children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in a condition of freedom and dignity, and that
is why the value is divide the population into two parts. So the adults who are being given a power here to run a constitution shall see that that section, lower part, the minors, everything is to be done for them. So don't vote for them. Don't elect them. This also is a duty. One is not to remain confined to oneself. One is to have active participation to meet the negativity. Positivity simply is not to be passivity.
Agreed, sir. Agreed. But now after independence, from 1947, now we are now in 2020. The situation always remains same. Whether it was a government in 1947 or maybe at in 2020, the situation still remains same. Where to go, what to do, it is becoming actually it is becoming a frustration.
Acquire more excellence. See how the nature is
Sir,
with
how
time. Is
sir, how
regulating.
acquiring my excellence? Sir, how acquiring my excellence will help the children to have equality and right to freedom and dignity?
So try to understand. Whenever there remains an iron, it remains iron, non-disturbing iron for all other iron particles around. But when it becomes a magnet, the all iron particles around stand organized differently. So don't say that if one is excellently developed, one is morally fully developed, then there will not be effect. If father is as it is a mundane, then family is to remain. If father is of different values, then certainly the children will have different values. Environment has its own role and many things. Think over it. It is a puzzle. It is a question. And that is why from the next session we will be taking up institution-wise. Then we will be taking up these particular aspects.
Actually, sir, after reading this, it becomes a frustration that what actually our foundation is and where we are.
No, it is not frustration. It is opening an eyes. What we take that we are performing is the constitution. No, we are not performing. Let us see what we have to perform. Anyway, this is the question. That is why we are being through it. And let us pause more. Let us discuss more. Let us.
Sir, what is the basic difference between Indian Constitution and the constitutions of UK? I think it is the foundation again is going to be more or less same.
We have to see how under this very criminal procedure code and for this very IPC, with this very number of courts, the freedom movement people were hanged being unlawful activity persons, and simultaneously this very system has also a change, a transform of the sovereigns. How the sovereignty shifted is also to be observed and imbibed. How under a particular set of laws, under a particular set of provisions, underlying change takes place. That is what we are studying. We are analyzing all this. This is not a question of frustration. No, certainly not. We have to think more. Anyway, it's a nice day. Nice.
Yes, sir.
From next session, we will continue further. It's a wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
It is an excellent. It is a nice. We should think. Once we continue thinking, it's all what the aim is.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you again.